Hello everyone, welcome back to Third Yard Circle. We're here to review the semi-finals that have just happened of the Champions Trophy. We obviously know that India and New Zealand have progressed to the finals, but after some incredible contests, I would say, especially the first one. And yeah, we're gonna start with that. Australia. I mean, they really played well, I would say, considering the team that they had. मतलब उनकी बहुत ज़्यादा इंजरीज की वजह से जो है वो टीम जो खराब हो चुकी थी एंड देन उसके बाद भी जो है वो they had another injury of Matthew Short and so still they took the game towards the end. So Aram, how do you see that game then?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. Actually, you expect India versus Australia to be absolute blockbuster. वैसे due to the history they have and ICC knockouts में और ज़्यादा there's a lot of history attached to it. But उस game में there was something very different because Australia was a bit toned down. Australia, it wasn't the Aussies that we have seen throughout the years. Bowling lineup पूरा changed, and we've talked about this when we were previewing the Champions Trophy as well. कि किस तरह what should we expect of the Australian bowling lineup throughout the Champions Trophy? And I think they didn't do that bad, to be very honest, because considering the amount of experience they've had, international exposure, plus all of the so-called inexperienced international bowlers were bowling in tandem. यानी सारे एक साथ ही खेल रहे थे. It wasn't as if there was one experienced, leader of the pack who could have led them into action. तीनों ही you could have argued ये दो in that case were inexperienced pacers. So bowlers के उस पे ज़्यादा we'll talk about, but overall game I think it was very interesting to see how they managed to dig it deep and take it right till the end, almost till the end. They managed to create that pressure in between as well for a while, but it showed that India were the much better side on the day, especially second innings में तो we all know how great Virat Kohli is and how great the Indian middle order is. We'll talk about it in detail, but overall, I think it was a good game as a neutral fan to watch. I think it was great addition. It was a great match for the Champions Trophy as well.
हाँ, या एब्सोल्युटली एंड जहाँ तक बॉलिंग की बात है, it's just that Australians didn't really have that attacking bowler, right? They had Zampa, but then उसके अलावा as good as Ellis is and as much as I've appreciated Ellis in the past, he is a defensive bowler at the end of the day. And so while he bowled his heart out, he just like obviously couldn't get the wickets, but that's not what he does in ODI cricket. So I really didn't get their decision to drop Spencer Johnson because of situation. Maybe someone like him could have been helpful for them. But I just want to address the batting of Australia at first to sort of go chronologically. I mean, Matthew Short was injured and they brought in Cooper Conley. Basically they were playing with one opener then, Travis Head, because Cooper Conley missed six balls, like six hits and plays and misses, and then he was out on the ninth ball, and it's a surprise that he survived nine balls the way he was playing. So in order to get that extra spinner in Cooper Conley, Australia compromised their batting, and I think they sort of paid the price because even Fraser McGurk, even he's not in that sort of form, but still he would have been better than Cooper Connolly. What do you say?
I think तो conditions का भी थोड़ा सा factor था. At that stage, the ball was moving around a lot, and not even initially. The Travis Head was also facing a bit of difficulty. We all know it. Dubai, में considering the conditions that are nowadays, अभी तो we saw in the previous Indian games as well, there is a lot to offer for the Pacers in the first few overs. वो जो पहला stint होता है fast bowlers का, you could argue two from each end, maybe max a total of 5 overs. तो उसको आपने you have to surpass it somehow. Now there are various methods that teams have implemented in order to get through that phase. You have the example of a team like India who have gone with a very different approach to it. You see how Rohit Sharma plays. They go for that high risk, high reward sort of game. And I think Australia tried to do something similar, but it didn't work out. payoff. We all always talk about where there's risk, there's always reward, but the risk also leads to, sometimes you not getting the desired result. And that, I think, was the day for Australia, that it did not happen for them. Although Travis Head got them off to a pretty decent start, but the other end, it was almost nothing from Cooper Connolly, and we saw that, Smith had to come up to bat, and eventually it led to a tricky situation for the Aussie batters. But I think कि, उससे ज़्यादा भी बैटिंग में it's just my observation कि they weren't too comfortable with the batting order.
Hmm.
They they were basically a bit confused whether to take the game deep and then attack, or play the Aussie way, that is to, go all out attack, because they had a pretty longish sort of a tail. I guess Ellis was coming in pretty early, तो वो उसको consider करते हुए they were in two minds basically, uh, throughout the middle overs as well, and the partnerships. There were a few things that went wrong for them. They tried to build partnerships. We saw a few at the start, then in the middle. I think though your team partnership, basically Smith was part of all three of them. You had Labuschagne there. Initially, you had one with Travis Head, and I think they lost wickets at crucial stages that
Yeah.
led to them scoring less than the threshold that they would have liked to score at. uh, I think एक आध काफी soft dismissals थे, especially English वाला. I thought कि he could have done better and played better. So, but I think we should also give credit to the Indian bowlers, because they were under attack quite a lot, but they managed to bounce back pretty quickly. They managed to take those wickets regularly, and I think this is something that separates the Indian bowling lineup from the rest of the world. We we talk about the other bowling lineups who are so called the best bowling lineups in the world. They call themselves as people who can limit the score of runs, but it's all about taking wickets and then restricting the run flow according to it. You can create a lot of pressure, but if you're not able to capitalize on it, you're not able to take those wickets, then I don't think it matters a lot, because उस pressure को किसी न किसी तरह जो है वो revert कर देती है opposition back onto yourself, and they manage to escape it. So I think that is somewhere the Indian bowling lineup was pretty good.
हाँ, वो हमने पाकिस्तान वैसे न्यूज़ीलैंड ने भी यही बात की थी कि लाइक हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट इट इज़ एट दिस पॉइंट ऑन टू टेक विकेट्स इन द मिडल ओवर्स बिकॉज़ इफ यू डोंट you will pay the price. And so that was the difference between the Indian bowling lineup and the Australian bowling lineup. Okay, India was obviously taking wickets in succession and on the most crucial stages, and Australia they weren't just they just weren't able to get any wickets. And जब उन्होंने ली भी, then it was too late at that point. And Steve Smith, I would say, like I mean, he tried his best, but he just couldn't get those singles that makes his flow, that make him flow, right? Because he was trying his best, but like in Indian fielding, ground fielding was too good, and the lines they were bowling, they were just not allowing him to get in his groove. So C Smith is obviously retiring from ODIs now. Uh, after an incredible career, two World Cup wins. But yeah, let's talk about the other guy at number three. I mean, we all know him, Virat Kohli, probably the best chaser in the history of ODI cricket. I mean, how well did he play? Like, it was just so convenient for him. It just felt like that he was dictating the game. He was deciding कि मैं अब यहाँ shot खेलूंगा, मैं इधर वो करूंगा, and he was basically deciding what lens the bowlers will bowl as well. Like, it was ridiculous. It just felt like he had a remote control and he was controlling everything.
Yeah, just coming going a bit back, I think Steve Smith पे बात करना जरूरी है, because I've always admired the player he is, and a, a, a career unfortunately surrounded by some bad decisions here and there, and some controversies, but as a cricketing career, I think it's one of the most underrated out of the अभी जो वो Fab Four वाली बात चल रही थी, उसमें I feel he's someone who's not talked about a lot, but I think he has one of the I won't say the best, but one of the better amongst the four. Record के हिसाब से भी, achievements के हिसाब से भी, contributions to his country, to his team for that matter, के winning tournaments, and he's done it consistently. It's not that he's one off or two of innings. He's done it consistently, and the most important thing I liked about his career, especially in ODIs, was how he managed to change himself and adapt to the Aussie way. It's not टेस्ट क्रिकेट में तो बहुत इजी होता है बिकॉज यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम ऑन योर हैंड बट ओडीआईज में यू नीड टू चेंज अकॉर्डिंग टू हाउ द टीम plays. We have seen Australia transition as world cricket has transitioned in the batting innings from supposedly innings of 250 now going to 350s and even touching the 380 mark or 400 mark, and he has gone along with it the way he has maneuvered his style of play and also developed some different shots. So I think he's a great asset, and he'll surely be missed in at international cricket in the white ball setup. Uh, उसके बाद कोहली की आई थिंक आई वी टॉक्ड अबाउट इट अर्लियर एज वेल जब हम पाकिस्तान वर्सेस इंडिया की बात कर रहे थे. ही इज जस्ट इन अ लीग ऑफ हिज ओन. He needs that kick, and Pakistan always manages to provide that kick to him, that push to Virat Kohli. You're back in form, go on now, destroy all the other teams, and he manages to do that with ease. You talked about him, stealing those runs, picking out the gaps so perfectly. Uh, जो उसकी थोड़ी बहुत वीकनेसेस होती भी हैं टेक्निकली, वो ही मैनेजेस टू कवर इट अप विद हिज इंटेंसिटी इन रनिंग बिटवीन द विकेट्स, which
Yeah.
eventually leads up to not that much pressure being built upon him, and he manages to rotate strike pretty regularly. So they जो स्कोर बोर्ड कंट्रोल करने वाली बात है, exactly knowing how much you need in this phase of the innings. you know if the required run rate is 5.5, you're going at around about fives. You control it for 10 overs, then you manage to creep it up by just a run or so per over. That makes you, well in control of the chase. And I think these are mathematical calculation हम ऐसे बैठ के कर रहे होते हैं, but it does go on into the minds of these chasers. And we know Virat Kohli is one of the best in the world when it comes to run chases, and he has shown it throughout the years. And we won't be surprised if we see a good innings out of him in the final as well.
Hi, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he will basically go down as, I mean, at least in top five ODI batters of all time. Like, I think there's no doubt about that. Moving on, I mean, KL also is also back in form because that was a concern for India, and there were a lot of calls to bring in Rishabh Pant, but he played a good innings, especially when Kohli got out. There was a little bit of pressure on Australia, on India, exerted by Australia, and so उस पॉइंट पे वो एक इंटीग्रल इनिंग्स खेलना स्पेशली इन सेमीफाइनल आई थिंक the stage is set for India at this point because every single player in that team is in form right now and they are raring to go, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good for them कि सारे batters they have had enough time on the wicket uh, in those specific conditions जहाँ पे उनको final खेलना होगा. So they are most likely prepared for any outcome that comes out in the final because सारे batters को time मिला है. Akshar has played well as well, sent up the order multiple times, and he's managed to fulfill that role with much more clarity than we've seen around players around the world do with their roles. And this has not only opened up because when India are confident with sending Akshar Patel at number five, that it opens up a whole new avenue for them down the order, how to manipulate the batting position of Hardik Pandya, KL राहुल को किस तरह adjusting in the batting lineup. So जब attack करना होता है तो किसको भेजेंगे, फिर left hander का option they have with Jadeja down the order as well. So it just shows कि the depth, the thinking, the mentality behind the team selection, the squad selection has been absolutely superb by India. They knew the conditions they were going to be playing at. They जो horses for courses वाली जो बात थी, they have completely made up with it. They know They knew each and every aspect about what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, how they were going to improve it, what their backups were going to be, and finding the perfect combination and 11 before the final is a big boost for any side. And I feel that India have managed to do it throughout the tournament from the first game, and I think this will lead them good.
हाँ अक्षर का it is good that you mentioned him because there was a lot of talk about India playing four spinners and Rohit Sharma was asked about it and he said कि we're not playing four spinners, we're playing two spinners and two all rounders. And so I mean that really displays the flexibility India possesses in terms of their spin department as well as their pace bowling department because Hardik Pandya, I mean the guy has shown that he's not just a basic all-rounder, he is the all-rounder. I mean the way he shines with the ball and the bat, it's incredible. Like India are probably this Indian side probably has to go down as one of the best sides that have been assembled in ODI cricket, especially in 21st century, if not all time. But yeah, moving on. Do you think? How do you rate India's chances in the final, and do you think they have any weaknesses that can be exploited?
आई थिंक इस पर बात करेंगे आगे भी, बट फाइनल से पहले इफ यू लुक एट जैसे इंडियन साइड यू वुड से there's absolutely nothing they would want to change with the way they've performed, because उनके every step of theirs have been, you know, so they have actually materialized the thinking. Not only that, they've justified their selections and the players have justified them being in the side and fitted into their roles perfectly. So unless it's a very odd day for them, you could argue that they're probably the favorites going into the final.
हाँ एब्सोल्युटली एंड जो न्यूजीलैंड वाला गेम था उसमें दे लॉस्ट अर्ली विकेट्स थैंक्स टू ग्लेन फिलिप्स फॉर दैट कैच वाज incredible वैसे I mean but so even if they do that in the final as well their batting lineup is so good, especially the all-rounders Akshar Patel and not Jadeja but Hardik Pandya. I mean the way these guys are batting right now, I mean they'll reach 250 in any case. Instead, like something very surprising happens. Maybe there might be a repeat of the Test series that happened in India. Santner spreading that web around the Indian batting lineup. But yeah, moving on. Let's just sort of look. Yeah, actually, before moving on, one suggestion that is being floated around is that India can probably bring back a fast bowler and drop a spinner. So Harshad Rana can be brought in for Kuldeep Yadav or Varun Chakrabarti or Jadeja. So what do you think about that? Because New Zealand plays spin really well. I mean India still won with this lineup and these spinners against them in group stages. So what would be your call?
I think ये call तब होती अगर had New Zealand, you know, beaten them in that game. The fact that they managed to defend the total and also you know, take wickets using the spin attack is something that they'll gain a whole lot of confidence. And I think suggestion the hoga, but I do not see them making that change unless and until there is something different with the conditions. Pitch को कुछ change कोई और pitch से हो या they look at some other circumstances. But उसके अलावा I do not think they are going to take that call. I think also considering the fact कि how much do they trust Hardik Pandya being that pacer option जो है alongside Shami, तो वो ये दो को consider करते हुए I think it all depends on what Rohit thinks and what the Indian think tank thinks right now, what they are expecting out of him. Do they feel that they are lacking a bit in up top के वहाँ पे they are not able to take wickets, because we know New Zealand if the batters get set तो फिर तो it's pretty hard to get them out if you are not taking early wickets. So I think वही case है, but consider all things considered, I do not see them making that change. वैसे.
I would also stay with the winning combination. Okay, moving on towards the second semi-final, which happened yesterday. in Lahore. Lahore hosted its final game of Champions Trophy, and yeah, New Zealand were won very convincingly. Obviously, David Miller was there with his fireworks towards the end, but the game was done by then, and so New Zealand. I want to talk about how they played Maharaj, because Maharaj, since his debut, has been one of the most economical spinners in ODI cricket, and he was doing that in his first 4 overs. He only conceded 14, and after that, New Zealand got around 52 runs of his next 6 overs. The way Williamson and Ravindra played, I mean, they basically figured out Australia's, beg your pardon, South Africa's weapon of the way Maharaj spreads the web. They basically figured out कि अगर हमने इसे escape कर लिया, then we are all set to win this game.
Yeah, I think उसमें ये वाली बात भी है कि एक तो the conditions also play a big role. There wasn't a lot to for Maharaj. Obviously, we won't call it a flat pitch by any means. I think there was something in it for the bowlers. Spinners के लिए भी था. We saw that in the second innings. एक तो वैसे slow up हो जाती है pitch at lower in the second
Mhm.
half. But उससे पहले भी it wasn't क्योंकि first 4 overs में he was pretty tight in his lines. The thing is कि second जो उसका stint था, you talked about after the first 3 or 4 overs, they attacked him, but the way they changed his length by coming down the track, and Ravindra going over a long on वो छक्का जो उसने मारा था, that basically triggered that change of attack from Maharaj. थोड़ा सा defensive हो गया था वो, and that opened up a lot for New Zealand, a new window of opportunity. They maneuvered him later on, and then it became very easy for them to play him because he lost that attacking, the mode है उसका, when he's too comfortable. The singles नहीं आ रहे थे. There's pressure building on. That is what thrives, Keshav Maharaj, and उस वक्त he wasn't able to, succeed in doing that. That is something that enabled New Zealand to play him that well. I was pretty, I, a bit surprised to see the way Williamson played him, because we do not associate Williamson playing such shots against spinners. एक वो mistimed shot भी था that just landed in between the two fielders leg side पे. So it showed the intent was there to go out against Keshav Maharaj, because they thought कि this is their best spinning option, probably their best attacking bowler in the middle overs. And if we manage to, rule him out of the attack, take him out just by going after him, we'll eventually get to a very, very decent total. And in the end, they managed to get there. Although there were a few hiccups here or there, but at the end, they managed to, gain momentum. And Glenn Phillips, as always, did his job pretty well, and they managed to, set up a very, very decent score. I felt that they were a bit above par, considering how much the pitch changed in the second innings.
Huh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think there was nothing wrong with New Zealand's batting, especially the approach. Like they figured out okay, this pitch is the one where you have to go all out. I don't think Pakistan would have done that. It's not about Pakistan, but yeah. There was nothing wrong with what they did. But one thing that I was concerned about was sending Tommy Latham when they could have sent Glenn Phillips. I think promoting Glenn Phillips would have been the right option, and maybe they could have gotten to 380 or 390 based on that as well. But then I think all's well that ends well for New Zealand, I guess.
I think
Um,
उसमें
yeah.
एक तो वो बहुत एक short and sweet innings थी. There isn't much to talk about what Latham did with his innings, but the intention of sending him there, I know I also was a bit surprised. It was almost one of the perfect entry points for Glenn Phillips at that stage, but sending Latham over there, but I think maybe they were thinking that Latham may try to change his gears up top as well, try to manipulate the pacers और जो भी सोच रहे हैं वो. uh, Maybe they were a bit too confident and preparing for the final, giving a bit of game time to Latham before it. You never know, anything could have happened at that stage, but I agree. It was the entry point suited for Glenn Phillips at that stage. maybe वो left, they wanted to send in a lefty, वो वाली बात भी हो सकती है at that stage.
Ah, yeah, I get it. I get
There,
it.
there is conversation to be.
Yeah, looking at South Africa's batting, I mean, probably exactly the same mistake uh, that we saw from Babar. Like, I mean, Timba Bavuma, like, what on earth was that? 3 of 18, 18 balls in a chase of 362. I mean, it just really shows that in this age, if you want to chase those targets, you need to get those quick starts. Otherwise, even if you have David Miller down the order who's going to get you a 60 ball 100, it still won't matter. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they need to do serious introspection. वैसे तो हम हर हारने वाली टीम के बारे में यही बात करते हैं, but if you have a player coming down the order playing the last 10 or 15 overs and he manages to score a 60 ball 100 and you still manage to lose the game when you're chasing a total of around 350, you should question yourself, okay, where did we miss out? And the question or the fingers will start pointing on how they played the first 10 overs. We have talked about it repeatedly. What makes great teams, especially in this Champions Trophy, the pattern that is set is how well can you play the first 10 overs. It's not about securing wickets anymore. Even if you lose a wicket or two, you need to score those runs. If you manage to do it, especially in the chase, you'll you'll, you'll be very comfortable in the middle overs. You can easily manipulate the bowlers and take it deep and eventually win the game. ये बहुत simple formula. I do not know. खैर खेलने में तो अलग होता है, but talking about it, it's not rocket science because South Africans knew this when they were going out to bat, but still that horrific innings from Temba, and especially अगर आपका captain, skipper leading from the front does something like this, तो you say that uh, बाकी आने वाले क्या follow करेंगे, and I think they managed to not managed but sort of recover from it. राशि की innings भी थोड़ी सी, it was a stop and go set a type of an innings. Then he got out to a very, great ball by Santner.
Yeah.
He just completely misread the line. तो वो आई थिंक उस स्टेज पे वी थर्ड के वो जो पार्टनरशिप थोड़ी सी बिल्ड हो गई थी. दे वर ट्राइंग टू, दे वर ऑन द ट्रैक टू गेट ऑन विद द चेस, थोड़ा सा क्लोज लेके जा सकते थे, बट दे स्टार्टेड टू लूज विकेट्स और फिर वो मिडिल ओवर्स में जो हुआ उनके साथ, आई थिंक
हाँ,
इट
एग्जैक्टली। मैं वही कह रहा था कि लाइक क्लासन, व्हेन क्लासन गॉट आउट, इट वाज ओवर, एंड नजर भी आ रहा था बॉडी लैंग्वेज से साउथ अफ्रीका की। बट द थिंग इज कि टेम्बा बवुमा इज अ फाइन ओडीआई बैटर एंड हिज स्ट्राइक रेट इजंट एज लो एज वन माइट थिंक। इट्स जस्ट दैट साउथ अफ्रीका डज दिस ऑल द टाइम। नाउ 2015 के वर्ल्ड कप में, and this from Jared Kimber, like did a very comprehensive analysis on this last night. 2015 के वर्ल्ड कप के सेमीफाइनल में अगेंस्ट न्यूजीलैंड, बाय द वे, Quinton de Kock, Hashim Amla, Fab du Plessis, and Riley Russo, the top four, all of these strike rates were in 70, and it was David Miller again with his 49, what is 49 of 18, who got them to 281 of 43 overs. And obviously, De Villiers also played a very fine innings of 65 of 44. But then South Africa का जो है हमेशा से रहा है कि like they really go into their shells and knockouts again. So I would say कि मतलब the the track was such that it was difficult to chase the target, but still हो सकता था. And so maybe South Africa choked again.
Yeah, I agree. I would absolutely call it a joke, especially chase में, because it wasn't a target कि भाई एक तो पहली बात कि 360 isn't the target nowadays कि you start going into your shell. जैसे पहले बात होती थी कि 300 above के target पे, if you go back 5 years or so, you would say कि if for example you look at the Champions Trophy 2017 वाली Pakistan versus England का game था, Pakistan managed to score a very decent target. They were well above par. At Trent Bridge, वो छोटा ground होता है, वो other thing. But what the point was कि England, although उससे पहले जो series हुई थी उसमें they managed to make constant scores above 300, even above 350. But tournament when they were again under pressure, even at a ground that suited them to chase it down, they eventually lost the chase. Why? Because ट्रॉफी में किसी इवेंट में इंटरनेशनल इवेंट में इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू हैंडल प्रेशर. बट साउथ अफ्रीका के ऊपर एक अलग से इनहेरेंट प्रेशर होता है बिकॉज दे मैनेज टू चोक आउट इन consecutive इवेंट्स, आईसीसी इवेंट्स, वर्ल्ड कप्स हो गए, चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी हो गई. एंड लीडिंग अप टू दिस दे माइट हैव थॉट कि वी माइट बी एबल टू चेज इट डाउन, बट वही वाली बात, गोइंग इनटू द शेल. एंड जब व्हेन योर लीडर गोज इनटू दैट शेल, व्हेन योर ओपनर और the top order goes into it, it's very hard for people who follow suit to go out and attack straight away. And I think they, मेरे हिसाब से they lost the game उससे क्लासन की विकेट से बहुत पहले ही. We
Hmm.
knew Klaasen and Miller were sort of players कि अगर इनका दिन होता तो they could have done something miraculous and won the game. That was the only thing, वही उम्मीद रहती थी उन दोनों से. But उसके अलावा we pretty much knew उससे पहले कि game was done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And but South Africa, I would say, was also hard done by the schedules and the travels that they had to do. Like they traveled to Dubai to अगर अगर उनको वहाँ पे खेलना पड़े. So I mean they did that. उसके बाद जो है फिर they had to come back to Lahore, so they had no recovery period after the travel as well. So that was something David Miller also mentioned. So and really highlights the ridiculousness of this tournament at this point. Like why are teams traveling for no reason? But yeah, I think that is about it. Do you have any weaknesses for New Zealand going into the final? I mean, we're going to talk about it in great detail
We'll
in
talk
another
about
video.
him. But I think there definitely are a few weaknesses, especially if you compare it with a side like India, who are in the final as well. They'll need to improve. खैर हम कोई स्किल्स पे तो बात नहीं कर सकते, बट टॉकिंग अबाउट द टैक्टिक्स, तो उसमें थोड़े दे कुड हैव हैड अ फ्यू चेंजेस. एक तो वो वही लेथम वर्सेस फिलिप्स वाली बात, वो एंट्री पॉइंट, दे कुड हैव डन अ बिट बेटर ओवर देयर. If they manage to make the same mistake in an फाइनल में, अगर ये गलती करते हैं, maybe it might prove to be a bit more, not a bit more but more costly then. अभी तो बच गए थे ये तो. आई थिंक फ्यू थिंग्स ट्वीक्स हेयर और देयर एंड दे माइट बी सेट. इनएक्सपीरियंस वाली बात तो अलग है, विल टॉक अबाउट इट इन डिटेल के बॉलिंग लाइनअप, हाउ विल इट फेयर अगेंस्ट इंडिया.
Yeah. All right, that's about it for this review of semifinals of Champions Trophy. Thank you so much for watching.